Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw. In this video, we're going to talk about what is more important, calorie consistency or protein intake. Calorie consistency, calorie intake, or protein intake. Before we get into that topic, if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. The best topic ideas, I turn into videos just like this. All right, a couple things before we get rolling. Obviously, I'm joined with Robert Chinetsky, the supplement engineer. Robert, who are you and where can they find you real quick on social media?
As you pointed out, Steve, Robert Chinetsky, the supplement engineer, industry writer, formulator, consultant, ingredient nerd, fan of all things hypertrophy and muscle building and all that stuff, and podcast host. People can find me supplementengineer.com, the supplement engineer on Instagram, or on any podcast perusing platform under the Supplement Engineer podcast or the Final Scoop.
All right, so it's super early in the morning and there's no light in here. That's why I look angelic, the reflection of the monitor. So what's more important for protein, for muscle building? Calorie consistency or protein consistency? That's really what it breaks down to. You know, calorie consistency or protein intake. I have a few thoughts on this, but I thought I'd toss Robert in the fray and let him start first.
Yeah, I think starting at like big level pictures, both things are important. So like in terms of muscle growth, we always get into this debate of what's more important, volume or intensity. You need sufficient amounts of both. And the same thing here with trying to build muscle. You need to provide a sufficient amount of overall calories, and you also need to consume enough protein throughout the day, because if you don't have enough essential amino acids, your body doesn't have the requisite building blocks to construct new muscle protein or repair the damage that's done from previous training sessions. So, you know, in that context, you need both. So like, I don't want people watching this to think that, well, we're only saying calories are important, or we're only saying proteins. No, if you go to either extreme of that, because you could consume enough protein each day, but if you're not consuming enough calories and you're still in a deficit, sure, you might be able to build a little bit of muscle, but you won't be maximizing your anabolic potential. Same thing on the other end. You could be consuming a ton of calories, but if you're not even getting the basic level, like the base needs of protein in the body, your body's you're handicapping your muscle building potential from the get-go, even if you are consuming enough calories there. So, you know, I guess let's approach this from what does the average lifter, what is more important for the average lifter? And I would say that the average individual is probably already consuming enough protein. So I think in their case, being consistent with their calorie intake over the course of a week, you know, a lot of people try to get into do these mental gymnastics of, hey, I'm not training hard today, so I'm going to reduce my calories by 300, 400, 500 calories. And then they're going to go and gorge themselves on training days. And so you get this kind of undulating calorie intake. And I guess at the end of the day, you end up missing your calories. You're going to end up coming up short, because if you get so stuck in your head about how much you should be consuming, or I didn't move enough today, so maybe I shouldn't eat as much. I think that you're adding more layers of complexity into the muscle building equation than actually needs to be there. To whereas if you just maintained a consistent calorie intake, you're probably going to be hitting enough protein throughout, especially if you're a guy, because guys like to eat protein. So I think the biggest challenge for the average lifter is probably just consuming consistent calories throughout the week and not missing their daily calorie needs.
So some are probably asking, why did I ask this question at all? Why I'm addressing this at all? It's a question I receive quite a bit. You know, and for example, people will go off on vacation, or they'll go on the road and they'll say, you know, I was a little bit short on calories and protein. You know, what action should I have taken? Excuse me. And what tell them on those rare speed bump days is just make sure you hit your calories. One day of lower protein isn't going to kill you, but I'd rather have you on the off, you know, random day when you're a little bit low for whatever reason. I'd rather have you hit your calories or even go over a little bit on calories than to just hit your protein and be low on calories. So this happens a little bit, you know, when life throws us off kilter. That's always what I used to do. And obviously I was just making it up. You know, there was no scientific background. But when it came to muscle building, calories, I've always found calories to be, you know, the anabolic, you know, very important anabolically, you know, so.
Agreed. And like from the literature side of things, like, so we always say, you know, just a good approximation of how much protein you need is 1 gram per pound of body weight. But if you actually go and like dig into the studies and like the recent literature review that Schoenfeld and Alan Aragon did, it says that the minimum range is 1.6 grams per kilogram all the way up to 2.2 grams per kilogram. And that's the needed to maximize the anabolic potential. So 1.6 grams per kilogram per day of protein is 0.72 grams per pound of protein. So, I mean, it's you've got a pretty wide gap. Like, even if you are consuming enough calories, especially for guys, because we tend to eat enough protein, like I said earlier, even if you're consuming enough calories, there's chances are that you're going to get that 0.7 grams per pound of body weight of protein that you need each day without even trying, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but sometimes we get obsessed with the off day or the bad day or the bad moment or the bad meal, and we really need to have the bigger picture in mind. What is important over the course of 3, 4, 5 years? That is a question we should be asking when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to lifting, not one blip on the radar screen. And what is important over 3 to 4 to 5 years is being consistent with your nutrition. More than anything, we don't need to worry about the 1% days. More importantly, we need to worry about being consistent day in and day out and taking nutrition seriously, to the point where there's a reasonable degree of consistency. You don't have to weigh your food, okay? You don't have to worry if you're 100 calories over or under. You just kind of have to have a calorie target, a protein target. Make sure you're pretty close to that every day, and do that over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, and you're going to be pretty good. Regarding a target like that, Robert, when I mention things like that, somebody's going to invariably ask, like, well, how far can I stray? If my calorie target is 3,000 a day and my protein target is 180 grams a day or 150 or whatever it is, arbitrarily, how far can I stray? So I'm going to toss that to Robert.
That's a really good question. Okay, so
you want me to dive into what I tell my clients?
Yeah, because I'm not really sure how. Because all right, so because my brain immediately goes to, all right, you give somebody the target, then they want to push the envelope and say, well, how much can I get away with on the other side? And then so you give them that range, and they said, well, is that really the limit, or they're just going to kind of want, like, you give them an inch, they're going to want to take a foot kind of thing, like they're going to keep kind of pushing it into. So if somebody gives me a thing, it's like there's a reasonable bandwidth, like reasonable variation on either side of a target number. And then like there's people that just take it to stupid extremes, and that's what I kind of want to avoid doing that. And just me by my nature, I'm so anal retentive with things that you give me a number, I'm gonna get everything down to like the 10th of a gram if you do that for me. So yeah, I'm gonna let you spearhead this.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like with fat loss clients, if I give them a ceiling of 2,500, calorie intake or 2,200 or whatever, it's always 63, 79, 123 over. So it pushes a little bit. So I always set the target a little bit lower, so where they come in is actually lower than where I want them to. But with regards to muscle building, which we're talking about here, I tell my male clients no lower than 150 grams of protein ever. 130 is like the red line, but if you go there more than once a month, we're going to be in trouble. And if I toss that out on social media, Robert, I would get probably 20 different things about protein intake, and I'm well aware of them and all the different tools and tricks and tips and where you need to be. But generally, what I'm trying to do is live in the real world and get them to a greater degree of consistency and not dropping below. So I tell them never go below 150. Do you think that's reasonably fair?
Yeah, let me pull up. All right, so let's say we got, all right, so 0.72 is the bottom number, okay? Let's say that individual is 200 pounds. So that's 145 grams of protein for a 200-pound individual. So that's still well within that muscle building range for like maximizing within the context of them consuming, a surplus of calories, a total, a sufficient amount of overall calories throughout the day. Even if a 200-pound person is only consuming 145 grams of protein or 155 grams of protein, they're within that research-backed range of protein to maximize the anabolic response to resistance training. So yeah, that I think that's a more than a safe bet.
The only real time I change that is when I'm working with somebody that is pretty muscular, and I've been posting some of my clients up on social media, and a couple of these guys, a lot of these guys are doing really good, and I'll bump them up to like 170, 180 just as a fail safe because they have more muscle than the average natural to begin with. But, again, to put an end cap on this, what's more important, calorie consistency or protein intake? The true answer is dietary consistency and consistency with both. But if you are in a pinch, I would go for more calories, even if you're low on protein. That way you at least hit your calories or go a little bit over. But I'd rather have you do that than try to increase your protein by 20 to 30 grams and still fall short on calories. Any
Agreed.
final thoughts, Robert?
No, plus just a calorie surplus is going to be one of the most consuming enough protein and resistance training are powerful tools in your muscle building arsenal. But so is that surplus of calories, because with the surplus of calories, you'll have higher resting insulin levels, which insulin in and of itself is a pretty powerful anti-catabolic hormone. So it's going to even protect against muscle breakdown if you happen to come up a little bit short on protein anyway. So yeah, calorie consistency intake for the win.
And if you are serious about muscle building, you need to understand that you need to be both serious about your training and serious about your nutrition, because it is a specific goal. We understand scientifically what it takes to get there. It requires a lot of hard work in the gym, but you can't fuck off at the dinner table. So guys, hope this video has been of some help. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. If you made it this far in this video and have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do. I'd appreciate the support. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Steve.